If you love history, especially studying about World War II, there's a great exhibit right here in Hartsville that you'll definitely want to check out before the end of the month.
This is part of a traveling exhibit on Camp Forrest, which is located outside Tullahoma, Tennessee. And during the war years, World War II, it began as a training camp for American soldiers going overseas. It was maneuvers. Then it was changed to a prisoner of war camp. And at one time, as many as 20,000 German and Italian prisoners of war were kept there. The exhibit shows a lot of the things that they did there, these prisoners of war, things they made, the artwork that they did, as well as how they lived. And it's very interesting. At the beginning of the maneuvers, the camp was just for soldiers. But as the soldiers shipped off, they started putting some Americans in there who were not prisoners of war, but they were men whose loyalty were questionable. And the examples we're going to look at, these two men in particular, were actually born in Germany, but they had come to America, spoke English, and were working and living here. But because of their German ancestry, people were afraid that maybe they were, still more patriotic to Germany than they were to the United States. So they were interned here, just like the Japanese internment camps, in California for the Japanese Americans there. Because of their German ancestry, they were interned in Camp Forrest. As many as 800 of these men were held here. While they were there, they got very bored, and so in this particular case, these two men were artistic, and we see some of the things that they created while they were in the camp. Then later, the camp, they were shipped to other camps, and the camp was just for prisoners of war from North Africa. Okay, another example is this gentleman, J.W. Gunter, who was very talented, as you can see, by the work he did as an artist. Before the war, he even did a magazine cover for Infantry Journal magazine. You wouldn't think his loyalties were questionable, but because of his German ancestry, he was put into this camp. While he was there, he continued to create art, although he never actually showed anything illegal or improper as he lived here. After the period of internment for Americans who were questionable, it became a prisoner of war camp, Camp Forrest did. 150,000 German and Italian men were captured in North Africa, and they had to find a place for them. So about 20,000 of them were taken to Camp Forrest. Now these pictures are all artwork done by some of those soldiers while they were at Camp Forrest. And you see it's quite a variety of stuff. These were all collected by a man who was an American soldier who oversaw the operation there from his personal collection. These are all reproductions. But you see the men were quite talented. But the thing about it is that we gave their prisoners a chance to be creative and they could join sports clubs. They had an orchestra, they had a chorus, they put on plays, and they could do art. Whereas the Germans, how they treated our American prisoners was completely different. All they did, I think, was maybe sit around and try to escape. but we treated them very nicely, and these are all examples of what they did, in their past time where they were bored. But as you can see, there are some very talented people. A large part of our exhibit is how well the Americans treated the German and Italian prisoners of war, especially compared to how our soldiers were treated overseas. The men were placed 5 men to a hut, and while they were actually at the camp, they were employed in various activities around camp and were paid for it every day. They worked in the kitchens, they worked, they even were employed by farmers in the area. They could leave camp and go milk cows or cut hay if they had some farming experience, and were paid for this. But they, in their spare time, they could join sports clubs. They played games. They had a chorus. They put up their own little newspaper, and actually, by the end of the war, increased their English knowledge. And some of the soldiers asked to stay in America because they had no one to return to. This is a part of history that is gradually disappearing, especially as veterans, American veterans of World War II are gone. That generation is about gone. So this is a good chance to catch up on what war was really like and prisoners of war and how they were treated.
The free World War II exhibit is located at the Trousdale County Archives building in Hartsville. It runs through May 28th. For more information, you can call 615-735-7305. Reporting from Trousdale County, Barry Hiett, NCTV.